Good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cheryl Montgomery, and I'm the Executive Director of the Fort St. John and District Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here for the last 2 days of really important and impactful conversation. And we're not going to end quite yet. We've got one more session that I'm excited to not only moderate, but participate in. We've got some powerhouses here from the sector, from the industry sector, and really local companies. You're going to recognize all of these faces, and I'm excited to have them here. I want to start with, I'd like to welcome Sean Surerus. He's the president of Surerus. Trevor Muir, he is the CEO and of SurePoint. Curtis Whitford's going to share his title with us in a moment, and Joffre Jorgenson, the president of Resolve Energy. So I want to welcome them all here today and for joining me. Thanks. Welcome, guys.
Nice to see you, Cheryl.
All right. Let's go ahead. I'm going to start with you, Sean. Tell us a little bit about Surerus. For those of us that don't know, we would like to hear.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Sean Surerus, president of Surerus Pipeline, a 50-plus-year-old overnight success story out of Fort St. John. So my father started the business in 1969 with a single piece of equipment out in Taylor, doing some maintenance work at the refinery, and grew into a pipeline contractor working locally and in the region, and over the years sustained the storms and weathered the challenges that happened with our economy. And the North's felt a lot of ups and downs over the years. And of course, as a young guy, I didn't really recognize the challenges that my dad would have faced and the business community faced in general through those cycles. But we managed to survive that and grow into a very, very good regional pipeline contractor and into a Western Canadian force doing large diameter pipeline projects all over BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and all was based in Fort St. John. And where we are now is, if not the largest pipeline contractor in the country through our joint venture, one of the top two. And that's so Surerus Murphy joint venture is a business that's delivering part of the Coastal GasLink pipeline, the first 140 kilometers of that. So that's work package 1 or sections 1 and 2, as well as spread 5A of the Trans Mountain expansion. So these are very much national interest pipeline projects where a local contractor is part of those. And that's something that was part of a plan. And then it was a plan that included investing in large equipment, and included taking some risks, and being part of a small group of large contractors able to pursue these opportunities. And those opportunities then turned into a joint venture where we saw the largest contractors in the country really participating with other large contractors on lots of infrastructure. And that's what we've done. So we have an integrated joint venture there. So we also have the operating Surerus entity, which is based in Fort St. John. We've just built a brand new facility for our head office and shop. We have 90 plus acres of industrial land that we've developed. So all kinds of things that a local contractor has been able to support, which is a lot of people locally, a lot of money supporting the Fort St. John tax base, and employing many, many people in and around the Peace region. And so where we are right now as a business, we would be running towards 70 people in Fort St. John, but in the business by end of summer, we'll have around 2,000 workers out on our projects. So that's in BC primarily. We're working in Chetwynd area, Kamloops, Fernie, which I was just there yesterday. So we're working in Sparwood and Mackenzie and Prince George. So we're all over the province. And then we also have work in Alberta, of course, south of Grand Prairie. So we're a very busy entity with a lot of people employed. And it's not just local to our region. Of course, we have a national following. And this is it's an interesting piece to be from a small town and to have, I would suggest at the moment, we have employees from every province and 2 of the 3 territories on our payroll. And that says that the pipeline space is pretty nomadic, and our contracting business has been nomadic, where as we did the smaller work, we were based in Fort St. John and pursuing work within a couple hundred kilometers. Now the large projects, we have to follow those. They don't follow us, unfortunately, and that's where we are at the moment, pursuing these large programs. And I know that these LNG export pipelines are so critical to our economy in the north this gas that comes out of the north is such a driver for the province. And I think we'll talk a bit about energy literacy and people needing to know a bit more about what drives our economy, what keeps their houses warm in the winter, and how crucial that is. And it's a piece of the puzzle that we speak to when we have opportunities for public engagement. And it's certainly something that we share with our workforce, so they know, that we're driving, we're heating the nation every day, is something we've said a number of times as our people go to work. So all in all, we're a very much an active entity. We've invested into new businesses in Fort St. John the last couple of years as well, to pursue projects that our business, quite frankly, is too big to pursue. That's with Shoreline Projects. So it's pursuing the smaller local pipeline work. And then a company called Pro Delta as well, that is more of a data management and technical services business that also does some reclamation work. So it's we can deliver only so much on our own, but we also realize there are other opportunities and other people that can lead business and participate in our communities and create that engagement we need. So I know we'll have some questions a bit later and some discussion on our Indigenous and community involvement, but I just thought I'd share a quick update on who we are and our excitement to be part of this today.
Myself, I forgot to unmute. So thanks, Sean. I just moved to Fort St. John a couple of years ago, and I have to tell you, the hometown feel about the pride for Surerus is huge. It's almost like everybody is invested in this hometown, like you said, the 50-year overnight success story. And you can feel it. When I moved here, I felt it. I could feel it among the community, how proud they are of Surerus. So congratulations to your family on that. Next, let's go to Curtis Whitford. And, I invite the other participants to turn on their cameras. Know that you guys can turn on your cameras, just stay muted, and then you can at least feel like you're joining the conversation a little bit. Let's go to you, Curtis. Let's hear what your title is with Tourmaline.
Sure, you bet. No, first of all, Cheryl, I want to thank you for at least organizing this event, and I think it's been fantastic. In fact, I've followed through now yesterday and even today some great conversations around the industry, and we're really happy to be part of both this conference, but also the Northeast BC and area. What I want to talk about obviously is Tourmaline, but what I've found is when I get outside of our communities, both Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, even Calgary, when I ask people about Tourmaline, they don't know, and they've never heard of Tourmaline. And I know we as Tourmaline need to do a better job on letting people know who we are and what we're doing here. So if you guys don't mind, I'll just start where we started. Back in 2008, Tourmaline Corporation actually started. We're not that old of a company. We're a proudly Canadian company, though. Tourmaline is operating in 3 significant regions within Western Canada. The major resource places right now are the Alberta Deep Basin, which is around that Hinton and Edson area, the Peace River Triassic area, which is Spirit River, and the Northeast British Columbia, right where we are here today, which is the Montney Clay. With all that being said, since 2008, Tourmaline has developed to be the largest natural gas producer in the nation, and we're proud to say that. With that said, it's focused on the Montney zone, and I was just doing some research the other day on specific to Montney and where and how and what we're doing here. The Montney, and I just read this out of Wikipedia if you guys don't mind. Montney is one of the largest known gas resources in the world, and is equivalent to 145 years of Canada's domestic use, and they're basing that off the 2012 consumption. 145 years of it. So we're talking a significant play here, and it's the largest in the world. And here we are, it's in our backyard. Within Northeast BC, Tourmaline has multiple producing gas fields, and I'll just summarize some of them here as the Doe, Sunrise, Sundown, Boundary, Gundy, Martin, Burley, Conroy, Laprise, and now Aitken Creek. In the past 2 years, Tourmaline has purchased the following local producers. So not only have we grown by the drill bit, we've also grown by acquisitions. So we've purchased Polar Star, Chinook Energy, Saguaro Resources, and just this past Friday, we announced the recent purchase of Black Swan Energy. With that being said, that significantly changes our footprint here in Northeast BC. Tourmaline produces on average about 405 to 420 BOE, that's a barrel of equivalent per day, and Northeast BC right now today contributes about 145,000 of that 420 BOE. I would suspect by the end of summer, when the deal closes with Black Swan, we'll be over 200 of that 400 production. Tourmaline is committed to spend, and this is significant, $10 billion to continue the expansion and growth in both Alberta and BC over the next 5 years. And you can see that with the growth that we are seeing here in Northeast BC. We are currently under construction here in our North Gundy facility and phase 2, and this is our deep cut facility. We expect to have it online in early 2022. The North Montney provides Tourmaline with the opportunity to develop incremental gas supply to meet the future demand of both LNG as well as increasing domestic demand, and we're planning on at least 4 to 5 drilling rigs to be active in the next 3 to 5 years. Over the next 3 years, sorry. So Tourmaline, we have done an amazing job on what we see as an improvement, and specifically with our innovative environmental strategies. And if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to touch base on that just after I take a sip. One of the things that we've done, and we're really done well, is diesel displacement. And with that being said, is we're switching our drilling rigs to run on natural gas. And how is that even possible? So we run and construct the infrastructure, the pipelines to the facility or the well pad before the well is even drilled. And we can actually run the drilling rig on natural gas. With that being said, in just the past, we've displaced over 20 million liters of diesel fuel in the last year in the reduction, just on running our drilling rigs on natural gas. And even our frac operations have now converted to some natural gas units. Recycling our water for the purpose of fracking and sharing our innovative water technology. Over 95% of the water that's produced in Northeast BC is recycled, and we're using that for fracking purposes. And reducing the methane emissions. How do we do that? Reduce methane emissions. So just talk about some of the neat technology we've done just in our recent Gundy facility is the use of waste heat. So this is heat that's generated from the engine, the gas drivers that are running the compressors themselves. We've worked and with our engineering group have developed a recovery method of the exhaust gases that's generated from the engine itself and actually helps provide the process heat within our facilities. It's an amazing way of reducing methane. Otherwise, we would be burning more methane to produce the process heat to manage. Tourmaline, once again, Tourmaline provides direct full-time employment right here in Northeast BC of over 120 individuals. So in Northeast BC, that's with our operations and maintenance and then our management group here within Fort St. John and area. We're investing in the communities where we work in and around. Northeast BC is through donations and sponsorships. So with that being said, I love to tell a story, and I love the fact that Trevor is even here as part of this, because it goes back to the 2020 collaboration between the city of Fort St. John, our local food bank, and the Site C Dam project with the ATCO camp provider. And it was over the food waste. And it was something that we worked together collaboratively and developed a way of recovering that food that would otherwise have gone to the landfill, and able to transport that back to the food bank and let our local residents who need the help access that food. And it's been amazing. In fact, that first year, and we were just really happy to be part of it and a small part of that, but it was such a huge deal for us to be in that. And I know Trevor with the SurePoint group has now taken that initiative and carried it through the 2021. But in that first year was over 50,000 pounds of food that was recovered to the food bank. Like I said, would otherwise have gone to the landfill. So we were really happy to be part of that. And that's a community thing that we stepped up to do. With that being said, like sponsorships, like let's talk about the Winter Games in 2020. Absolutely, the signature sponsor in the games, a signature sponsor, the local Salvation Army, the hospital foundations in both Dawson Creek and Fort St. John, the United Way, the Fort St. John Fire Department, the Red Cross, the local Red Cross in both school districts 59 and 60. These are some of the initiatives where we helped and sponsored and donors in our area. With that, though, Tourmaline, like I said, Tourmaline's committed to being the lowest overall cost producer, with safety as our priority and number one. And we're focused on a real lean operation and the ability to power our lives with fewer emissions. And that's a true statement that we've said, and it's and I believe we live it. What I'm going to is, as I heard a great statement, it really resonated with me yesterday, and I didn't want I wanted to share it today in a statement that was made about we don't want to be work for our grandfather's oil company. And I think that was correct. But where I'm going with that is that Tourmaline is focused on sustainability and growth, and we want to be here, and we are not going anywhere. We want to continue to grow, and BC is a huge focus for us, and like I said, we're committed to being in the communities and helping the communities, and so no, we're really happy to be part of this conference. And like I said, questions are absolutely we're prepared for that later. But like I said, we're happy to be here. Sure.
So much, Curtis. But you know what you forgot in that?
Oh no.
What's your title?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. The Northeast BC. So they allow me to do this. So I am the Northeast BC Operations and Community Development Coordinator. So it abbreviated. It's funny, but I don't need to go there. But
well, yeah. I appreciate that then that you decided that you wanted to say that yourself, but then you didn't say it, and I was waiting for it.
No, that's fine, and I don't mind. Sean and Joffre, they can laugh about it because I know these guys. The Northeast BC, so it's the NEBC OCDC, and that's fine. Yeah,
that's a mouthful too, though.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're just so honored that Tourmaline has stepped up and become our presenting sponsor for this event. So thank you. Big kudos to Tourmaline for helping us out through this. So thank you so much, Curtis. And I know that you were the conduit that helped us get there to be able to put that forward. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. And like I said, we're really happy to be part of this. This is some great discussion, and I can't wait to where we can do it face to face.
There, Trevor's back. We wondered where you had gone. All right. So, great. We're going to come back. But next, let's go to Joffre. And let's hear from you, Joffre. Joffre is the president of Resolve Energy. So, Joffre?
Thank you, Cheryl. So I'll give a quick bio of myself and the companies as well. So I own Resolve Energy, and also I own Stimulate Energy Services. I'll briefly talk about those, but so it was about 23 years ago, I graduated with a college degree in petroleum engineering, and oil was $11 a barrel. So that's what I came out of school ready to hit the oil patch, was at $11 a barrel. So back to the farm I went, fought with my dad for about 6 months, and thought, I got to get out of here. And so from Southern Alberta farmer, I got transitioned up to Fort St. John 22 years ago. I needed to look on the map where Fort St. John was, because that's where I was being transferred to. But 22 years later, I'm still here. And I started my first business in 2007. It was a company called Stimulate Well Optimization. And what we did was we took existing oil and gas wells and tried to get more oil and gas out of them. Through, what they say as an entrepreneur, you don't usually end up doing what you started doing. So that enter Resolve Energy. So in 2011, we started a division doing regulatory compliance and more environmental related type of work. And so Stimulate Energy does a lot of work in still doing well optimization. So trying to get more oil and gas out of existing wells. And we also do a lot of frac water flowback treating and treating the water so it can be reused. So we're trying to get Tourmaline up to 100% reused water now. That's our goal, is to reuse all of it. But we work with our partners like Tourmaline to try to do that. And with Resolve, we're primarily focused on asset retirement services. I could speak to a little bit of that if anybody's interested in kind of the whole breadth of asset retirement, but it's been a fairly hot topic with $1.7 billion that Trudeau put to good use. BC receiving 120 million of that. So all focused on retiring assets. So it's been a real, it saved a lot of companies in Alberta from maybe closing their doors, and then probably some in BC too. So it's helped carry business through some struggles, and created a platform and almost a diving board to cleaning up the rest of these assets. I guess the other, emissions and environmental monitoring is another thing that we do. So like Curtis said, is trying to reduce emissions. A lot of our business is resolved around identifying where the leaks are with some fancy cameras, and going around the country finding leaks and fixing those leaks. So that's a big part of what we do. I'll just say one other thing, kind of to Curtis's, like where Western Canada sits with oil and gas and growth and development here in the present and going future. My farming background brings me back to, I used an analogy in my previous talk, and I'm going to use another analogy now. So, as a farmer, you look at, like, even in smaller areas, different farmers have different land, and some land's better than other, and some quarters will continually get better yields than the neighbor's quarter or your quarter to a mile to the north. So when I look at resources and where we're sitting, I know Cheryl, Curtis, and myself are sitting. We're sitting on the Montney right now. And so in terms of, where we sit presently and going into the future, in farming, farming's always going to exist as long as we, need to make bread and canola oil and all that stuff. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're sitting on the good land. So in Western Canada, a lot of areas are suffering, and they'll continue to suffer because the potential for growth doesn't exist in those areas, because they can't produce the yields that you could produce if you had better land. So it's almost like we're very fortunate to be sitting on the Montney right now, because it's a world-class resource and will outlast sitting on this resource. It's going to create a prosperous future as long as there's a demand for oil and gas, which I'm very confident there will be. So just want to say that. So thanks.
I think another way to summarize your analogy is location, location, location. We've all heard that one before too. So we're very fortunate to have.
Yeah, and fortunate and grateful is the word, because sometimes when farming, it's, you buy the expensive land, and by default you get the good land that grows the good yields. We didn't know, Sean didn't know, well, Sean wasn't around 50 years ago, but your dad didn't know that we were sitting on the good land, and it just, only in the last 15 years did we realize what we had in this region.
But that also goes further to say maybe they just haven't discovered those other good lands somewhere else. You never know what's under there somewhere else. All right, let's go to Trevor. Trevor Muir, you're the president of SurePoint. Welcome back, Trevor.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you inviting me to this, and I could hear you all through it. And thank you, Curtis, for acknowledging us and with the food bank initiative. And we're certainly proud to be a part of that in the community. And we're honored that you're willing to work with us to pass that over. So thank you very much. So SurePoint Group is a company that we started. I was one of the co-founders. We started it in 2003 out of Grand Prairie, Alberta, actually, and just a bunch of farm kids as an instrument mechanic, and it was given an opportunity to invest, and right place, right time. We had 10 owners, 10% each. We had 15 people total in the company, and we had big dreams one day of growing to maybe 30 or 40 people. And I like to tell this story. We did our first year budgeting around a campfire with a flat of beer and some quads, and it worked out really good. So we did that again the next year, and then we did it again the next year. So we didn't really have a lot of business acumen, but we had a great culture, and we attracted a lot of people to our company. And inherently, those people brought, good relationships with good partners, and so we continued to grow, and we expanded into actually 10 different businesses at one time, and we still have them, but we call them SurePoint now. They were 10 actual different businesses branded separately. So we have a mechanical business and instrumentation electrical. We have a rig division and a fabrication division for modular fabrication. We do telecom. And through the years, so we ended up growing from 15 people to almost 400. We went international. In 2008, we sold to a private equity group out of the US, and saw a pretty explosive growth. And unfortunately, that ended up not being a good thing for us. We ended up in a lot of trouble financially. To be brutally honest, we didn't have the acumen to manage a company that was growing at that rate or that size. And we lost the thing that made us unique and was our identity and was our culture. And so we got in a lot of trouble financially. And in 2013, the board called me up and asked me if I'd be the CEO. And I said, hell no. And then, talked to my wife about it. And I said, I can't, I think that we're in trouble and I don't know what to do. And I'm way over my head. And my wife asked me if I would, how I would feel if I left. And I said, there were a whole bunch of really good people came to SurePoint because I told them we were a different company and we really cared. And they left really good jobs in other organizations. And I said, I'd feel like I kind of ran away now that I have opportunity to sit on the couch for a while. And so I accepted the role, and it's been quite a journey. We ended up in a lot of trouble financially, and but went and told the team the truth. I'm way over my head. I don't know what we're doing, and I went to every branch and talked to every person and said that genuinely and authentically, because I really didn't. I'm an instrument guy, not a CEO, and we came through it, and that time period in 2013 and 2014 really positioned us well for the recession that was about to come. And so we've been through a lot of ups and downs in SurePoint, over the years. And I'm happy to say at the end of 2018, a group of us actually bought it back and brought it back to Alberta with the help of ATB Private Equity and a private investor. And there was 11 of us bought it back. And in the condition for me to be a part of that and to put that together was that we would become a broad-based employee-owned company, and that's what we're working on. And so over the years, we've been able to get back to focused on what we do well, and that's really caring about each other and really building a foundation around that core value and partnering with great organizations. I mean, we partner with people, and those people work for awesome organizations, and they support us. And I can tell you stories about the love and support we got from our clients when we were going through financial trouble, just by going and being honest with them and saying, we need some help. Can you get us paid quickly on this one? And talking to our vendors and so we've got a story that I'm really proud of. Our team always rallies and comes back together and really, really focused on community. And, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But, when I say that, I'm honored that we got an opportunity to be a part of that campaign and initiative with Tourmaline. It's heartfelt and true. And last year we doubled down on all this stuff and really, really got more involved. A lot of people needed a lot of help, and our team just rose to the challenge. And so, we're an oil field service company. We certainly have a lot to learn as we go, as we continue to go and grow. But very, very proud of our company and very honored to have partners like we do in the industry. And certainly, the North is our home, and we love it. So.
Well, thank you so much for that honesty. And I love that story. I guess, it's important for all of us to hear that not every successful company it has a paved yellow brick road to that success, that sometimes there's some hills and valleys on that yellow brick road. I did have to reflect for a second when you said you did your business planning around a campfire and on some quads with a flat of beer. My father was in business for over 60 years, and I'm pretty sure every business plan was on a napkin at Wendy's. I swear by it. And I'll bet you Sean's father was probably close to the same story when he was developing his company. Sometimes there's some pretty good practices in those old values. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your honesty there.
One thing I'd like to add
sure.
quickly, Cheryl, is this year, actually just very recently, we also acquired and are merging with a company called Ironline Compression, and very proud of that. We aligned extremely well culturally, and that was another company that had been around Alberta for a number of years. Way longer than SharePoint, lots of ownership changes and lots of US ownership. And we actually brought that back. We bought it from a private equity group out of the US as well. And we were able to bring those people onto our team, and we're going to be able to offer employee ownership for those folks as well. So we're really proud that we're, at a time where, it's pretty tough still in the industry, and the last year was hard. We've been able to get the support, to bring both our companies back to Alberta and to Western Canada, and we're certainly proud of that. So,
oh, that's an amazing story. Congratulations! I'm happy for you guys. That shows your fortitude, and I think part of that is just your honesty with sharing some of the problems that you guys have encountered. Shows that that integrity and genuineness is the one thing that we've talked a lot about when we've been discussing building relationships with Indigenous communities, both businesses and bands, and anybody we plan to partner with in the future. And I know that all of you have a very strong Indigenous component to all of your businesses. Certainly Sean touched on it at the beginning, and Curtis did as well. And it's an important part, and it's not just a component, it's an overall philosophy of the way the company needs to be now. I'm wondering, would one of you like to just talk right now about some of that Indigenous engagement that you're taking practice in? Sean? I'll call Sean.
No, thanks, Cheryl, and everyone for the introductions. But if we look at our business, and I've been in it for 20 years in Surerus, and where we are in the northeast of BC with our great Treaty 8 nations, we've been working locally for a long time, and that meant working locally with our Indigenous communities and the members of those communities. And I know my experience as a young guy was in the pipeline space. We had many members from the local communities, and that was a big part of our business growing up. And being from a small town, this local component of working locally in other small towns. And if you think of what we've done, we've worked all over the place, and we're guests all over the place, and recognizing the importance of working with your local contractors, with your local Indigenous contractors, and really making best efforts on getting people onto your projects. That was the foundation to where we are currently, where I think we're well ahead of the curve with respect to working with subcontract management. We have an employment funnel where we identify talent to bring into the business and ensure that we can track that from the first point of contact until they're employed. And we can track these things and improve our performance. And that's something that is actually a note I made earlier, is that's not something that's an afterthought for our business, but it's not an afterthought for most businesses now. It's really an important component of the way we can deliver work. And we can't do it without strong social commitment and without strong local and Indigenous involvement. And we see that on all of our projects. We are in well ahead, and ideally, we're a contracting business. Ideally, we're in earlier than just show up to work a week from now as a business. And that's where the smaller projects really were more challenging, because it'd be quite nimble to start them. Now with these large projects, you have months to plan, and that means that you can do effective community building and engagement with the nations. And where we are right now, we're working with over 30 communities in the province, many of those with impact benefits agreements with the proponent. And of course, those benefits agreements, we have to apply what we're told of them to make sure that the relationship stays in safe hands. And that's something that we have to be really mindful of. And of course, in light of the, the information that came from the Tecumseh Nation, there's a lot more understanding of the overall challenges that our Indigenous populations experienced. And I think it's really going to shift a lot of the narrative and the way that we work with our workers and the way we speak to our employees over the next years. And as challenging as that information is that came out, it's real. And as contractors, we have a voice too. We have a voice to educate our people, to improve our relationships, and to make the work we do meaningful and make the employment opportunities real. So there's a bit from our perspective, and certainly we have, again, like we'll have a couple thousand workers out and a few hundred First Nation members, and we'll have hundreds more local community members as well on our projects.
Thank you, Sean. Curtis, did you want to chime in?
Well, it's key. Those relationships are key to our growth and our development in the Northeast BC. Is those relationships and the communications with our First Nations communities where we are active, and we are doing that, and we're confident those relationships are there. And yes, like anything else, are we doing a good job? I think we're doing a good job. Can we do better? Absolutely. With that being said, we're active in ensuring those relationships are being built and the communication is there.
I think that one of the things that came out of some of our sessions this morning was not only is the industry doing better, but Indigenous communities are doing better in terms of knowing that if they want a really fulsome agreement, that they have higher standards for what those agreements contain. It's not just a contract, that they want more from that now. They're not just prepared to be a box that's ticked, but this better be a full, real, genuine relationship moving forward, or there's going to be more work that's needed. Did you have anything you wanted to input to that, Trevor?
Yeah, thank you. For us to absolutely, our First Nations relationships are really important to us, and we were a little bit later to getting and forming some really good, meaningful partnerships with First Nations, and a lot of that was, we didn't have a good understanding, to be honest with you. We knew that it was an important component, and when we had the best of intentions, and we wanted to do it right, and we wanted to have meaningful partnerships, and saying the same thing that I think every CEO says over time, or anybody in our industry, and realized early on that we really didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't have an understanding of how to meaningfully engage with the First Nations in the different treaties, and we work in a number of treaties, and Treaty 6 and 7 and 8, and we've got a really good partnership with Pasqua First Nations in Saskatchewan, Treaty 4, and so we had to bring some people onto the team, and we had to get introduced to some First Nations folks, and really take time to learn what was important to them and what was meaningful to them as well. We've always employed some Indigenous people, and they're just part of our team. But I'm proud to say that we're our executive chairman of our board is Métis, and he has a significant stake in SharePoint, and we're moving towards some more Indigenous ownership here over the next couple of months, and true equity, and we're really excited about that, to be honest with you, and the relationship's been really, really good.
Fantastic. Joffre?
I don't have too much more to add. Just to kind of echo what I said earlier, it's I think Sean, Trevor, myself, we're service companies in oil and gas, and it's great that the three of our companies are aligned and have good relationships with the Indigenous communities. But Curtis, there has been a lot of consolidation in oil and gas from a producer's perspective over the last year. You rambled off 5 companies or something that Tourmaline's bought in the last little bit. So it's significant, right? And as these larger companies, these larger producers I guess a different set of expectations on the small business companies like mine, on expectations for what Indigenous engagement and whatnot. So like I said, very grateful that we have the alignments that we do, but there's a lot of small business owners in this area that are a little bit nervous that due to the consolidation of the smaller companies that didn't value Indigenous engagement in the same way, maybe that there's a fear that they might be left out. So I just wanted to maybe Curtis or Sean, that maybe that could open up some more conversation. But from the word on the street, there's some business owners that are generally worried.
No, it's a very fair comment, Joffre, and I know that our executive and our leadership team in Calgary is well aware of that. And to put the horsepower and the people behind it, they're definitely that's part of our plan with the growth that we're seeing here.
Sean, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that as if we call ourselves, let's say, a tier 1 type contractor in our energy space, we hire a significant amount of sub trades, and quite honestly, most of it's aligned with the overall project plan that's prescribed by the proponent. So many of our contracts are what we would call novated, where they're agreed in advance. We accept that contract. The owner's gone through that procurement process of identifying some significant subcontracts, and they are generally aligned with the Indigenous communities, and we would accept those contracts in, and we would then administer them. And then we, on top of that, would have a very large component of subcontracting, and there is a weighting. There is an important component of that is making sure that the local First Nation owned businesses, affiliated businesses, that could be through partnerships, joint ventures, or percentage or ownership, are also identified, and that's a key component. I mean, because the contract has a weighting, doesn't mean that it is going to go to an Indigenous business. It means that we have an obligation as a contractor to be able to identify those opportunities, and then provide the opportunities to a broad offering of contractors, and they would be from a number of communities, and we do have competitive tendering for that. And one of the things that we've learned, and I get it, Joffre, that there are challenges, because it is shifting right now, where that Indigenous component is really critical to, and particularly working for a contractor like us. All of these things are measured, and they flow up into reporting, and the reporting is part of the ESG. The ESG governance side of things. It's also reported up to the boards, and then it's reported out to the public. And so we're part of that grinder right now. But it's also something that we can't empower the businesses and grow small business, particularly from the nations where there's been some disadvantages over the years. And I do see that there are issues, but we also are working with that. And one of the things we've really learned is that the feedback to the all unsuccessful contractors is critical. And I see on the those that are attendees, I know that I was reached out to earlier this year from one of the attendees as to no feedback, and why isn't that happening? So those are the things that we have to really, really recognize, and the honest dialogue really helps move forward and makes people more competitive and understand what's driving a business like ours, who would be hiring, on any project, dozens and dozens of local subtrades.
Thank you for that. Already the time is ticking, and I want to get to a question that constantly comes up, as I said, and that's that one about how do we engage with companies like yourselves? Is it more than just going to your website and looking for the opportunities that are available? What are some of the other opportunities and ways for small, medium-sized businesses to engage, to get into that subcontractor type of role? Is there things, do you lay out in terms of certifications and criterias? And, certainly Indigenous is one of the, components of that, but there's other things too. How do subcontractors find out what those opportunities are and take advantage of some of that? Who wants to go there? Silence. No?
And I'll start. I mean, I kind of spoke a bit too long last time, but it's a real challenge for a business like ours. It's grown from a smaller contractor to a larger one. And where does procurement fit? Where's our pre-qual? We've been delivering on the projects we're aligned with, information sessions. So that's one way we do that is we host events. Broadly, when we could do it in person, we'd host events related to a project. Because generally we're in a new, lots of times we're in a new area. So there are contracting relationships we're not aware of. And that's just a component. And lots of times it's because the proponent has actually organized those events as well. And then when it comes to our business, certainly the website's the kind of the first vehicle for subcontracting employment opportunities. And then we funnel that into our procurement manager, who then has to deal with the dozens and hundreds of contractors that want to come work with us. That leads to a pre-qualification process where we do use ISNetworld. And if it's a small enough contract, there are some variances, but it's relatively sophisticated. And then that leads into our estimating group that will then filter through that to identify where we want to go and put tenders out. So that's the rough and dirty from our business.
I didn't want to put you on the spot. I just know that from my perspective as a business organization, the Chamber, it is one of the big questions we constantly get. And so, people ask. And it, some of it, the solution from a Chamber perspective is maybe hosting job fairs and those kinds of things and seeing whether there's value in bringing together some of the prime contractors or larger contractors to be able to network with some of the smaller independent businesses and at least set up an opportunity for that kind of connectivity. So I only bring up the question because that's one of our main questions we get asked a lot. Does anybody else want to comment on it before I scoot on? No? All right. So, part of the big thing about businesses in a community is that community engagement, both from your perspective and giving back and contributing in the community, as Curtis touched on earlier with the food bank. That's a big part of business and just good community relations. From a non-profit perspective, as I look forward, I can't even imagine the number of requests that businesses get for funding and contribution into different components that they want to do in a community. How can we organize ourselves so that we're not constantly inundating businesses with requests, and actually building those relationships that, further both organizations? How do you see us participating with you guys rather than constantly asking?
Well, if you don't mind, Cheryl, I'll jump in on this one. And it goes back to just the communication. And I love the fact that I can have like Jared from the Salvation Army or Lisa from the Women's Resource Society call me and talk about some of their needs or some of the upcoming projects or where and how they're struggling right now. With that relationships, and it goes back to just straight communication and how we can help. Tourmaline, we were guilty of this, and one of the things that we were guilty of is just writing the check and posing for the picture, and then it being done. We love supporting and donating to these charities and these organizations, but we've come to the conclusion that we need to help, and some of it is you just need to roll your sleeves up and get involved. So we've committed to doing some of these community projects where we're actually getting out with a group of us and helping with upcoming projects. And yes, we need to support, but where that goes specifically for Tourmaline is it goes through a series of yes, we'll look and listen to every and all requests, and they will be submitted, and then we review as a committee what gets selected and sponsored or donated and supported by Tourmaline. That everyone that's submitted gets reviewed and looked at. Thanks,
Curtis. Sorry, Trevor, did you want to say something?
I think for us, we're a smaller organization, and I'm not sure we get we don't get the door knocked on nearly as often as as probably Sean and Curtis and maybe Joffre would. But, you know, for us, what's really been impactful and helped is, you know, it's all about relationships, right? And if there's a way to connect us with people to have conversations, we're always open to it. We have a vetting process as well, but we also, you know, took a direction like Curtis was talking about. And it's one thing to, you know, for us, the checks aren't nearly as big, but it's one thing to write a few $100 check or $1,000 check and get put into a magazine. And it's a totally different thing to become engaged with the organizations and the not-for-profits, and to actually, you know, we talk about meaningful relationships all the time. And you know, if we're going to be involved in the communities, then we really have to get the people who live in the communities involved. And it's something that our team has really rallied around, and especially over this past year, to where they've, you know, our folks have actually gone out and through their, you know, through their relationships in the community, brought back different, you know, different ideas and different organizations that are in need of help. And our people have actually stepped up and, you know, done fundraisers internally and volunteered their own time. And so I think that, you know, that was something that was really inspiring to me, and we're very, very proud of. Was this is spawned from being a SharePoint thing, which we'll always support. And you know, I burn hamburgers, but I don't mind coming in and working the flipper on a barbecue. But, you know, when our people really started to get out and really started to do things totally on their own, it's a lot more impactful, I think, from our perspective.
Right. So one of the things that the Chamber is working on is energy literacy. And we talked about that a little bit earlier in terms of creating awareness about what does energy actually mean. And the sessions all day yesterday were all about that. And, you know, how do we connect with people across the country to bring it home so that, you know, people understand what we're doing in this region and what the industry is and what we're doing for everybody. What does energy literacy, from your perspective, look like for us to be able to assist with in terms of education and awareness? How can the Chamber and the Northeast piece contribute to that energy literacy piece of what we do as a sector?
Maybe I'll take a quick run at it. So, you know, where I can see that, and that's we're part of the chambers in the communities we work in. So that's one component. We've been asked to present on our projects as a contractor, and usually on behalf of the owner, they usually give me the endorsement to talk about the work and our involvement in the community. But what I can see is where, you know, we're going to be working in Squamish ideally on the wood fiber LNG project. And that's a community that has, you know, some real challenges with support. It's a resource-based community in transition right now. And they've got a council that is, you know, some are in favor, some are not. And they have a chamber that is a strong advocate. So, you know, when we look at all the chambers in the province, they're a bit pro-business, but maybe not pro-energy, right? So this is where I think, you know, our chamber in Fort St. John in the north, those opportunities when you have your regional meetings and when you have your opportunities to discuss what is happening, all the good things from the businesses that are on these calls and the support you have from our sector, you know, your voice with your peers, I think, is probably quite critical. Now, I also recognize it's a business-focused chamber. Like, the chamber is business-focused, but it's not necessarily energy-focused. And I think that's where your advocacy can probably support us a little more. And when we're working elsewhere, and our voice matters. If we're going to speak up, we should be willing to participate in the events and be members. And if there's an opportunity to share the good things we're doing, just like we are now, is a real opportunity for us as leaders as well.
So what I'm hearing is we need to be really strategic and maybe be inviting some of those areas that you know, are struggling with awareness about energy and what that looks like and what it means, and really make a point of including them in some of our events like this, where we're able to really do some education.
Yeah.
Great. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'll come in on that.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the resource. And the talk in the last couple of days has been, you know, the fact that we're getting a pipeline to the coast, that we're going to liquefy our gas and ship it across the pond. That's very significant in terms of looking at energy from not my generation, but, further generations, like the fact that billions of dollars are being spent on tens of billions and soon to be possibly hundreds of billions, that's all very long range forecast type of growth, and I think spreading the message that these long-term investments create, people are really looking for security these days, and so trying to spread that story and that word of security, and that it's worth investing in energy. Hundreds of billions of dollars don't get spent if there's not a long-term outlook on what we're going to, on the rewards, because those tens of billions or potentially hundreds of billions need to be recaptured. So that's not going to happen next year, the year after that. That's going to happen over maybe tens of 50 years, 60 years, and maybe 100 years. But we do have the reserve, and we do have the stuff up here to make that last a long time.
Thanks, Joffre.
If you don't mind, Cheryl,
Yep.
we talk with how we used to do business, and I think that focus is there, and that resonates with a large part of our public on how we used to do business, and I'm saying how we're currently doing business and what we're focused on improving and how we do it. So, for example, like the innovative ways that we're looking at already, like, don't get me wrong, like we were like any other producer, and with that being said, to develop these drilling rigs to run on natural gas to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, these multi-well pads to cut down the footprint the environmental footprint, it's key on how we're currently doing business, how that has changed over the last 15, 20 years. Like even the recycle of the water, everything that we're doing in reducing methane, like how this technology is coming in and improving how we're doing the business I don't think is being shared. And this industry that I believe, and just like Joffre just said, I want my kids and my grandchildren to have these opportunities. And I believe this resource that we're sitting on is that opportunity. But we're constantly working on improvements focused on reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and our environmental footprint. And I don't think we've shared and educated the people on the improvements that we're doing.
That came up on the innovation and technology session when they were talking about a lot of the innovative projects that are happening up here in the north, and even across Canada. And the one thing that was consistent was that Canadians don't share how incredibly innovative they are, and that we are actually at the forefront of everything, and we don't promote ourselves, and we don't have a Canadian brand on that the innovative processes and the environmental processes, and all of the things that we're leading the pack on. We're not telling anybody about it, and we don't have a Canadian brand stamp on it to say this is the things we're doing, and these are the things we need to educate people about. It's about how we go about doing that.
Yeah, like let's be honest, like Tourmaline's not the only one that's recycling water or cutting methane gas consumption, and even diesel displacement. These are innovative ways that we're sharing, and there's multiple producers that have come up with some great ways, amazing ways to lessen the environmental impact on how we produce this natural gas, this resource.
We just need to brag a bit more, I think.
Yeah, we do. We need to share these stories.
Tell the world, tell the country about how innovative and green we really are as producers.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate everything that you've all said, and I reiterate some of it. And Curtis, I think you're right. The way that we used to do it is not the way that we do it now, and certainly from a producer perspective. And I think the one thing that we really need to focus on, and we need to get the message out, is not only on the fact that we're forefronts in innovation and all the great things that the industry is doing, but we're really a part of the solution. And when I talk to people, and I've got some friends, who don't live in oil and gas country, and they get a different narrative for sure. Certainly, one thing that I tell them is I've never met an Albertan or somebody from BC who didn't care about the environment or who didn't want a future for their children. I think we can all align on the fact that we care a lot, and we care actually probably more than we get recognition for as human beings who work in this industry. And that is why the Tourmalines of the world and the producers of the world and the Sureruses and those companies are doing things and investing in technology and spending a lot of money trying to make a difference so that you can have that long-term sustainability, economic future for years to come for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, as well as protect the environment. And I really believe that message holistically isn't getting out there to where we actually care a lot, about the environment and making significant investments into that, not just because you check a box, but because it matters to folks as human beings. So
great message. And I think that helps us wind up some of this, because what it does for me is it gives me a little bit of a to-do list for next year's conference, in terms of when you have this quality of conversation and dialogue for 2 days, we really need to expand on who the audience is sitting in here, in terms of how we help share the messaging about energy and what it means to us and to our children and to the country and to the future and all of those things. And it's just critical for the right people to be hearing that message and hearing all of it. So I really want to thank you guys for joining me. This is our wrap-up session after 2 days of incredible conversations. You guys are sort of the anchor leg on this. I want to thank you so much, Sean, for taking time out of your busy day. I know how busy you are. Curtis, Joffre, jumping on last second. Thank you so much. And Trevor for being able to get back in. So we really have to acknowledge Curtis and Tourmaline and the support that they've given us through this conference. So thank you all very much. You guys can stay on, or if you like, you can turn off your cameras and mute if you like. We definitely need to just have a few last words in terms of wrapping up what's been 2 incredible days. I can't express how grateful I am on behalf of the FSJ Chamber board and myself to see this incredible support of speakers, panelists, attendees, and sponsors, of course. We could not have hosted this level of an event without all of them contributing to helping make this a success. So I hope you will just grant me just 1 or 2 more minutes to say some quick thank yous to some really important businesses and our presenting sponsor, Tourmaline, of course. Huge thank you to you. We also want to thank CAP, the City of Fort St. John, Coastal GasLink, MNP, SurePoint, Enbridge, Surerus, Petronas, Digital Supercluster, and Tenaris. Thank you all so much for jumping on board and supporting us through this virtual event and all of its quirks and technical challenges, we call them. But I have to also say a huge, huge thank you to Eagle Vision Video Production, and especially to my partner across the table here, Kent Evanson, who has provided so much support, technical support. We have decided we're BFFs forever, but an amazing sense of calm and collectedness to get us through this all. Thank you so much, Kent and Eagle Vision. We couldn't have done this without you. I also want to acknowledge the dedication of the Fort St. John Chamber of Commerce, who are committed to making businesses better for everybody in the community and to constantly supporting the energy sector that we live in, that is our economic driver in this region. So, certainly I'm going to do a shameless plug and say, if you're interested in membership, call me. But as I mentioned earlier, the FSJ Chamber is dedicated to working towards our own efforts towards inclusion and diversity in everything we say and we do, because we believe that it's the right thing to do. We also are saddened by the tragedy that has occurred at the Kamloops Residential School, and to honor that And to honor our speakers, we humbly will be making a contribution towards a fund of recognition for that. Before we announce where that will be, we will be, of course, connecting with our Treaty 8 partners here to make sure that we have made the right choice for that benefactor. So with that, I look forward to meeting you all in person, face-to-face next year. 2022 is going to be an incredible Creating Energy and Northern Resource Conference. We're going to bring 2019 and meet 2021, and together we're going to have a great conference in 2022. So I invite you all to join us for that, and I look forward to it. Thank you for coming and participating this year. We appreciate it all from everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.